And when it comes to how those raise money, I take no lecture on asking patriotic Americans to weigh in and contribute to this fight from those who would grovel and bend knee for the lobbyists and special interests who own our leadership, who have, boo all you want, who have hollowed out this town and have borrowed against the future of our future generations. I'll be happy to fund my political operation through the work of hardworking Americans, $10 and $20 and $30 at a time, and you all keep showing up at the lobbyist fundraisers and see how that goes for you. I reserve.
All right, so Matt Gaetz, he's our federal bill sponsor, and he is in every single headline worldwide right now for dethroning Kevin McCarthy. We've been getting a lot of emails and phone calls from our people asking, what the heck? What am I supposed to believe? I turn on Fox News, there's Newt Gingrich saying these 8 people are all traitors. What am I supposed to believe? Right. You guys, and referring to us, we certainly have an opinion on it. Let's break this down for our members and our supporters why this was an excellent play that Gaetz made. I'll tip it over to either one of you two guys to start us off here.
Well, yeah, I mean, a little bit of background on Gaetz there, Chris. We went with him as our Abolish the ATF sponsor.
Yeah,
and we knew who this guy was, and he was a troublemaker. The left likes to talk about good trouble and this and that. It's like, our time that we've spent around him over the years from a professional perspective is this guy is on message, he's on point, and he's there to burn it down. And Washington needs to be shaken. And I think this is a guy who. When you hear the swamp call somebody a clown or whatever, it's like, dude, that guy's doing something right, and all the knives are out for him right now. And give him credit, man. I mean, he for the first time, I think, in history, a sitting speaker was taken out with this maneuver, and this is a hell of a play.
Well, we're all in our 40s, and for my entire lifetime, we have all of us and everyone watching here, we all are disgusted with Washington, D.C. Everyone hates the fact that once we fight so hard to get Republicans in charge, we get almost worse results than we got under Pelosi, the way it seems, because these guys just sit there and kiss each other's backside day in and day out. And we've always sat back and said, when are things going to change? And clearly, if you watch Matt Gaetz, this is 7th year there, I think it is, in D.C. now. He's just like, I am not going to sit in this town any longer and abide by the status quo. Something's going to give. I'm going to flip over the table, and that's what he did. We should, all of us, be applauding that.
Through the channels that I monitor the most, for Ohio Gun Owners and Pennsylvania Firearms Association, one of the things that we've been getting comments on, and a lot of these people, members. Sorry about that. I have an article that just popped up and playing some audio. One of the things that we're hearing from people that are not members is, well, we need a government that functions in Washington, D.C. And I guess that's the first question I think we should address here. Do we want a government that functions as usual in Washington, D.C.? Is that one of the things that we're supposed to hold up as conservative Republicans as, something we're supposed to push for? Because in my experience and in my opinion, a government that works seamlessly in Washington, D.C. is one that screws over the grassroots at every single level.
The uniparty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one word that's coming out of the Fox News echo chamber, and this is being fed directly from Kevin McCarthy's people who are just ragingly angry right now. The one word that comes out, and you see it a little bit out there, is chaos. This is chaos. This is chaos. Well, it's chaos to them because order to them is just everything is predetermined. You go and vote. You know how the vote's going to go. You go have your steak dinner at lunch, or maybe you have a couple drinks at lunch with the lobbyists. Then you go at dinner with the lobbyists. This has been shaken. Okay, this has been shaken up by Gaetz and some of these other people who joined him. And when you hear chaos, and I've seen a little bit out there, and to follow up on what you said, Chris, it's like, well, what do we do next? Who are we going to get now? We're going to get somebody worse. Well, if you're okay with McCarthy's order, then
Right.
You don't agree with kind of the stuff that we do. I mean, chaos for a moment, shaking things up, and now you're looking at, potentially a much better speaker candidates.
Well, it's something I mentioned a minute ago, Patrick. I want to hit this right now. You mentioned this right before we hit the button here. The chaos moniker is mostly coming from the PACs that are giving hundreds of millions of dollars in super PACs and direct PAC money in November, in December, in early January, because they built their entire 2-year business model on Kevin McCarthy being Speaker of the House. And we're talking about trillions of dollars at play in the federal budget on defense contracts, on every conceivable government contract. And so all these big mega corporations who are far and above what we can even comprehend as far as their money supply, they built their whole house of cards on Kevin McCarthy holding the gavel. And so we hear this moniker about chaos, chaos, chaos. That is people who are potentially going to lose money. And that is not the kind of folks that we're here to protect with the American Firearms Association.
In many ways, I mean, when I hear these descriptions of chaos, to me, it brings me right back to 2016 in the general election. You got Donald Trump running against Hillary Clinton, and in my opinion, the outcome of that election was the American electorate saying, we're sick and tired of the perfect uniparty in Washington, D.C. So they elected a hand grenade and they threw it up into Washington, D.C. for the very purpose of disrupting things. And so, I mean, looking at it from that perspective, that's exactly what we needed people like Matt Gaetz to do. The biggest question I'm getting after that, though, is, isn't this chaos a bad thing? The question that we've been getting from a lot of people is, well, wasn't it a bad thing for Matt Gaetz to join with all those Democrats in order to accomplish this? Shouldn't it have been the Republicans that removed McCarthy instead of him having to rely on the Democrats? And I'm just going to let one of you guys answer this, because you guys are doing great jobs of answering after I tee it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll hit that. Back in the speakers fight, no Democrat voted for Kevin McCarthy. But guess what? In the debt ceiling deal, it was, I can go look at the numbers. I don't have it in front of me. I think it was more Democrats than Republicans who voted for that. And then the most recent, they had that continuing resolution, more Democrats, or at least well over 100 Democrats went right along with it. So to me, it's just bunk. And then, less than 24 hours later, and I think this is definitely up our alley because, the Ukraine stuff. I mean, they're, just from a country perspective, just caring about our country, the Biden administration and these Ukraine people, they're literally like just emptying out our stockpiles, our defensive stockpiles as a country, and sending them to another country. And of course, that fits right into ammunition and guns and everything else. And but yeah, I think there's a lot of good that's come out of this. And to me, Ukraine is a big one, man. And the Democrats are all about Ukraine. So, I mean, it's just bullcrap.
Yeah. I mean, to your question, Chris, Matt Gaetz did not stand with congressional Democrats. The Democrats followed Matt Gaetz. Let's get that straight. First of all, Matt Gaetz led this fight. And so they could all sit there and say, well, it's not good to work with the Democrats. But if Matt Gaetz, I mean, because here's the deal. Gaetz could sit there and hold this seat until he's an 80-year-old man. His seat is unassailable in Florida from a general election perspective. He's not going to ever lose a primary. It'd be easy if you're Matt Gaetz to do what everybody else in that town does.
Yeah.
You sit back, you pop a beer, and you watch your country burn to the ground. So it'd have been easy. That'd have been easy. He could have avoided all the pain, all the media. And so if anybody's sitting there wondering, well, isn't he fighting with the wrong side? Is he just trying to go for headlines? Just ask yourself, what rational person, if his goal was self-promotion, if his goal was all about himself, would take that road, would take that route? If he sat back and did nothing, it'd been a status quo, and our country would suffer for it. That's why Gaetz did it. It's just pure and simple.
One thing I'm going to add in here too, as we sit here and think about this and work our way through this, is it very much mirrors what happens in state legislatures as we've experienced all across the country. Like in any given state legislature right now, there's not if it's controlled by a Republican caucus, for example, the majority of those Republicans are not rock solid, staunch conservatives. The majority of them are corrupt rhinos that simply follow the herd, and the herd goes wherever leadership directs it to go. So for these 8 people to have set out on a course of action and said, this is what we're going to try to accomplish, and we are going to use every tactic in our toolbox available to get it to happen. Well, in many ways, that's exactly what we do with constitutional carry, with stand your ground law, with SEPA, and all these different state legislatures. We use the committed actions of a few to try to leverage that, whatever the political climate is, to get the desired outcome. I think Matt Gaetz, what he did here, wasn't outlandish at all. It wasn't chaotic at all. It was very rational and reasonable to use the tools that were available to him to get the head of the herd dethroned. And
it's been a 10-month-long program. I mean, he laid this out when he got the rules package assembled in January. One member can take this action. So he obviously has been planning this for 10 months. Like you said, it was not chaotic. It was very rational. And yeah, again, if anybody watching, if you're confused about the noise, like this was going to be something worse could come of this. What worse can come of this? We already had a backstabbing weasel scoundrel as the Speaker of the House. We may get another backstabbing weasel scoundrel Speaker of the House. If that's all that accomplished from Gaetz's actions, he showed the entire country that one congressman, if he wants to actually use the power he has, can upset everything, can stop everything. You mentioned Ukraine money, Patrick. So if nothing else, we put the brakes on the entire cabal, and we might get a better speaker. Maybe we get Jim Jordan, maybe you get Scalise, maybe you get somebody else. But if nothing better comes of this in terms of the speakership, the power base in D.C. was rocked to its core, and how anybody could wonder how that's a good thing is beyond me.
Yeah, it's funny. Agree totally, Aaron. And we were saying this back in January. Gaetz is basically like after he did that fight, the speaker fight, like he could just walk around like a freaking peacock, man, through that Capitol, knowing that at any time, if he could bring 5 or 6 people, McCarthy and them knew what was going to happen. He was going to go down, or at least they thought they did. But to follow up on one more point, not necessarily on the strategic point there, just an anecdote. They tried to embarrass Gaetz. They cut off his microphone. I don't know if you guys knew this, but they cut his microphone off and told him to go to the Democrat side.
Yes.
So the optics would be, oh, look at the Democrats behind him, which backfired, because if any of us were on social media, you would have seen Ilhan Omar sitting right behind him. And it was actually a very comedic thing. Like millions of people, Ilhan was back there like licking her lips and stuff, It became like this hilarious
She's
thing.
not your brother, honey. She's not your brother.
Yeah, and then they tried to embarrass him. This guy Garrett Graves from Louisiana, total slime ball. Oh, look at the fundraising. I mean, this is it's just hilarious. And Gaetz gets a 30-second hit. That's basically, which you shouldn't technically be allowed to do it on the House floor. He was just responding to this guy. Tens and tens of millions of people go to mattgaetz.com and chip in 10, 20, or $30. The swamp and these guys, they're so disconnected from everybody watching this video right now. And most of the things that we believe, that if you were confused, if you're watching this, you were confused, hey, Gaetz, what was he doing? Whatever, like, rethink it for a minute, man. Rethink it and watch what happened. And this was a historic play by our lead bill sponsor, a guy who has abolished the ATF, repeal the NFA, is the most eloquent guy on the Second Amendment. The most eloquent guy on the Second Amendment. Really, and I'm not just floating his boat for no reason, like really works harder than most of these other people, is a high IQ guy. Does he make some mistakes? Yeah, sure. But like, you can't have a better guy up there fighting for your Second Amendment rights.
No.
On all these points than Matt Gaetz.
And one of the things that really drew us to him in the first place, and we sat down, we were talking with him about this, when we were talking with him about sponsoring National Stand Your Ground law. Of course, we knew that he was the subcommittee chairman in the Florida legislature that defended Stand Your Ground law, but we didn't know until he was telling us these stories that he's the guy who had Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson outside of his office door banging on it, with all the national news cameras out there trying to get him to repeal the Florida Stand Your Ground law after the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman fiasco in 2012.
Yeah.
Decade ago, man.
But this guy grew up as a total street fighter when it comes to gun rights. He came out of I think he came out of his office. He's like, yeah, let's have a conversation about it, but I'm not going to change one period or one paragraph in the entire law, and told them right where to stick it. That's exactly what we need. We need agents of chaos.
Yeah, and everybody's attacking them. You take this freshman Derek Van Orden, right, from Wisconsin, Mr. Navy SEAL, and of course that's to his credit. But the guys that you would think, these freshman guys who are going to be up there like throwing fists, they are trying to shred him on social media. And the reason for it is that what Gaetz did left them all susceptible to being hit from the right, because now they had to vote to back the swamp or to back freedom. And so, and what's crazy is if you read the comment sections on their own platforms, if you read the comment sections in their own channels, you see they are being lit on fire by what? 80-20, 90-10 rate. My contacts on Capitol Hill are saying that even for the friends on the right who are not attacking Gaetz because they're more conservative but didn't join the 8-pack, they're still getting burned alive and with phone calls and emails and social media comments saying, why didn't you stand there with him? Why didn't you help him? And so, I mean, they can all have their day in the sun to rage at Gaetz, but the base who is commenting on this, they are melting these guys down for sticking with the status quo, deep state, swamp, tyranny in D.C. against their own people.
That's why when you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off here, Patrick, but that's why when you turn on Fox News right now and you see Newt Gingrich standing there, calling these people traitors, don't ever forget, he is as swamp creature as it ever got in Washington, D.C. He's a Georgian, right? Patrick?
Yeah.
One of the worst. But this is a guy who went out there just like Speaker McCarthy did, and he raised millions and millions of dollars, and they pushed that money out there to all these races all across the country. And these congressional races are funded by these special interest groups, and there is a promise made in return for these massive PAC checks. Aaron, you touched on this already, but in return for these massive PAC checks, you guys are going to get this, and this in the next 2 years for sure while I'm the speaker. And now people like Max Miller, who didn't, like from Ohio, as an example, he's out there attacking Gaetz right and left. This guy didn't have any grassroots support other than what was given to him and a few mentions by Trump and by massive PAC checks from McCarthy. So he sits there, he looks at a guy like Gaetz, who has never taken a dime of PAC money or special interest group money. And he's like, man, that guy represents exclusively the people. The only reason why he's here is because the people themselves give money to this guy, not the PACs. He's not beholden to anybody. And that pisses off a lot of these Congress members, and a lot of these special interest groups are really furious that they're not going to get their big, massive federal checks over the next 2 years.
Yeah, a couple points there. A big red flag. I mean, many of you guys know I worked on Capitol Hill in a congressional office, but a big red flag, and we polled our members yesterday on who they support for speaker. We just want to know for the heck of it.
Yeah.
You're seeing these members, it's Scalise or Jordan, right? And they're putting out polls on their Twitter pages and stuff. Guys, they really want to know, because it's now everything has been upended. You don't have Kevin there to help you anymore. And some of these rhino guys who don't believe in anything or whatever, they're just going along to get along. They have a choice to make now. If they go with Steve Scalise and he's got 25% support from their supporters,
right,
they may flip. I mean, this is the position these guys are in, and the order has been upended, and it's a big damn deal. And on Newt Gingrich, this guy, and a lot of people don't know this. I put it out on Twitter the other day on my personal Twitter page, but his chief of staff was Kevin McCarthy's chief of staff up until like 2 months ago. And there's a big New York Times spread of his chief of staff, Newt and McCarthy, all sitting in his office. And so you think Newt didn't have some money pipelines going on there? Absolutely. And I can tell you this for a fact. The Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, and his gang of characters, his top lobbyist is Jeff Miller. When you see people, congressional members on Fox News, that is cleared through Kevin McCarthy and his people.
Yeah.
So some of your favorite people are not going to get primetime spots or great spots on Fox News, man. It's just not. Like when Tucker was on there, he had a little bit more latitude, maybe Laura Ingraham and Hannity, but throughout the day, midday, you know, that is Republican chosen from the NRCC and Kevin McCarthy. So this is really, really, really.
I hope you guys heard what he just said there. Yeah, if you're watching this later on, I hope you heard what he just said there. The people that you see on Fox News were pre-approved historically, have been pre-approved by Republican leadership to go and take and get those sound bites.
Definitely.
That's not just because the media is like, oh, look, there's Jim Jordan. You know, he's popular right now. Let's go ask him. No, he's on the list. A lot of these people are on the list of people that are approved by Republican House leadership. And that's why we get to see them. The narrative is certainly control.
And that's why some of these faux conservatives are now attacking Gaetz, because everybody's power base flows through Kevin McCarthy. Everybody in that town. If that's the power base you're seeking, Matt Gaetz's power base is of the people. But so for everybody else, their PAC money comes through him. Their Fox News hits come through him. Their office assignments. Okay, that's more of a lottery, but like literally down to the parking spot, right? Like their entire life hinges around the pleasure of Kevin McCarthy. I have been in vehicles with other members of Congress who they get phone calls from Kevin. It's like, oh, sir, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Oh, God bless you, sir. And I'm just like, aren't you also a member of Congress?
Yeah.
Like, dude, this guy is not the second coming. And so again, just question the motives of every single person that you see right now slamming Matt Gaetz. If they're a congressman, we've hit that 100 times. If they're a member of the state legislature, I've seen a lot of that. I've seen state lawmakers, a lot of them posing questions about this. It's the same thing. Chris mentioned a few minutes ago, the same dynamic occurs in every state capital in the country. And the people who are whining right now are the folks who lack the guts to do the kind of things that Matt Gaetz did in their own pool, in their own pond. And so they can sit there and whine and take pot shots because they will never have the fortitude to upset the swamp in Des Moines, in Atlanta, in Jeff City, in you pick your state capital, Columbus, all of them. That's the reason why state lawmakers are attacking him. So just question the motives heavily, because the only people who lose in this arrangement over the last week are all the power-hungry PACs, all the power-hungry politicians. The people, we win. We won. Absolutely. It was a great day for all of us.
Yeah. Yep. Any closing thoughts, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I just, I think that we need to see more of this. And I think Aaron touched on it, probably Chris too. It's just like regular order in Washington sucks, man. I mean, it sucks. We're getting screwed. And I think, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here, but here at the American Firearms Association, as most of y'all may know if you're watching, like we operate the bulk of our operations most of the time are in state capitals, because we know that these type of plays we run all the time in capitals across the country. In Washington, they're rare and it's a much bigger machine to run. But a lot of you guys out there who are members of our state groups and even our federal group, that's where these big fights, we should learn from what happened in Washington and do it more at the state level.
Amen.
Well, we wanted to come here and unpack this for you guys a little bit. And I think I will end with this. Like, the last thing I would ask you guys to go do is, if you've been just watching the news or getting stories in your social media feeds that have been shaping the way you think about this, I would encourage any of you to go on YouTube and watch the 60 minutes of debate between Matt Gaetz and everybody else who is opposed to him. You will find yourself agreeing with every single word that the man says. And so we can sit here and vouch for Matt Gaetz as much as we want on this issue, but nothing will convince you of the truth of his position and the integrity of what he did than his own words himself. So I think we'll try to probably include a YouTube video or YouTube link with this, so you guys can go watch that if you haven't. But last thing I'll ask you to do is go and share this video with all of your friends so that they can get fully up to speed on what a great play this was.
Absolutely.